In the sprawling cosmos, filled with ancient empires and towering civilizations, Earth was but a blip. Humanity, a young species, had once been an afterthought. Few believed they would ever rise above the confines of their tiny blue planet. Yet, in the quietest corners of the galaxy, something incredible was brewing. The Galactic Empire of the Titans, a massive and ancient civilization, had dominated the known universe for eons. Towering humanoids, their muscles rippling with centuries of warfaring strength, commanded fleets of ships that could decimate whole worlds. These giants, as they were called, had long dismissed humanity as insignificant, unworthy of attention or concern. After all, what could a fragile race of short-lived creatures possibly offer? But the Titans made one critical mistake: they underestimated the humans' resolve. Earth had long been engaged in its own wars, but not for conquest. Humanity had fought for survival, against nature, against other nations, and, in the farthest reaches of their past, against the darkness of space itself. It was this spirit of tenacity that formed the backbone of humanity's eventual rise to power. The spirit to never give up, to push through adversity, no matter how impossible the odds. And it was this very spirit that would come to haunt the Titans. On Earth, in the year 2267, the Federation, humankind's unifying government, had already begun its efforts to expand beyond their solar system. Initially, they sent explorers, peaceful emissaries seeking to engage with other civilizations. They learned and observed, growing in knowledge, technology, and ambition. But humanity, being human, could not remain passive for long. They had begun to build an impressive fleet of ships, far beyond what any other species had expected. They weren't just building ships. They were building weapons, innovative, lethal, and capable of shaking the foundation of even the most seasoned empires. It was during this expansion that humanity encountered the Titans, initially through a peaceful mission to one of their outposts. Unaware of the true scope of the giants' power, the Federation diplomats were greeted with dismissive arrogance. The Titans saw them as weak, naive, and inconsequential, just another species too young to understand the intricacies of galactic politics. But humanity had always been more than they appeared. The first clash was not on the battlefield. It began when a rogue Titan ship, under the command of an impulsive general, attacked a Federation freighter. The Titans, expecting humanity to cower, were shocked, and the Federation responded with an unprecedented display of force. It was not a full-scale attack, but a series of calculated maneuvers and technological innovations that caught the Titans off guard. The Titan general's ship was crippled, an act so bold, so unexpected, it set off a chain reaction that no one could have predicted. The Titans retaliated, of course, but they were now forced to consider a reality they had long ignored: the humans weren't as weak as they had thought. The Empire of the Titans had always maintained an aura of invincibility, but humanity's unpredictable tactics, ingenuity, and relentless determination shattered that illusion. As the first skirmishes escalated into open conflict, the universe watched in disbelief as humanity, once seen as insignificant, began to fight back with unprecedented courage and intellect. The Federation's forces, though still smaller in number compared to the mighty Titans, proved to be a formidable force. Humanity's ships, unlike the massive dreadnoughts of the Titans, were fast, agile, and equipped with advanced weaponry. More importantly, they were fueled by an unyielding will to survive. What the Titans had thought was a minor rebellion soon became a threat they could not ignore. Humanity's rise from a fractured species to a powerful force was rapid, leaving the Titans to question how they had allowed such a small race to grow into such a challenge. But this was only the beginning. The true scope of humanity's power had yet to be revealed. The Federation's top leaders, along with their brightest minds, began to devise plans to push back the Titans and defend their people. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's rise would not be a mere flash in the pan. No, it would be unstoppable. And it would be the beginning of a new era, an era where even the mightiest giants could no longer stand unchallenged. The universe would soon know that in a universe of giants, it was the determined few, the humans, who would rise above the rest. The shockwave of humanity's daring defiance spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. While the Titans scrambled to contain the damage to their reputation, something else began to stir in the far reaches of space. The act of defiance wasn't just a signal to the giants, it was a call to arms for countless oppressed species across the galaxy. It wasn't just a war between two civilizations, it was the birth of a rebellion that would shake the foundations of galactic power. The Federation, now in full war mode, had learned valuable lessons from their initial engagement with the Titans. It wasn't enough to merely fight back, they needed to strike at the heart of the Titan Empire. But that was a tall order. The Titans controlled vast swaths of space, and their war fleets were legendary. However, humans, being human, had a knack for turning the impossible into the inevitable. They had already begun assembling a coalition of races, many of whom had been under the oppressive thumb of the Titans for centuries. Human diplomats, soldiers, and spies began to move among the stars, convincing alien factions to join the Federation's cause. The galaxies were filled with species who had long been broken by the might of the Titans, war-torn planets and populations enslaved, unable to fight back. But humanity's rise gave them hope. For the first time in millennia, they could see a chance for liberation. The Federation was no longer just a group of humans, it was a growing interspecies alliance, determined to take down the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. At the heart of this rebellion was Captain Amelia Hart, a human who had once been a simple soldier in the Federation's armed forces. She had risen quickly through the ranks, earning a reputation for her uncanny ability to think outside the box and lead her crew to victory, no matter the odds. The Titans had underestimated her at first, thinking her a mere commander of a single ship in a fleet of thousands. But now, she was the spearhead of humanity's war effort. Captain Hart was not just an extraordinary strategist, she was a symbol of what humanity had become, a small, underestimated species that was now a force to be reckoned with. Her ship, the Vanguard, had been a key player in the Federation's first successful battle against the Titans. The mission had been a success, but it had cost them dearly. Yet, Hart remained undeterred. She knew that the true victory lay not in the battles fought, but in the future that they would carve for themselves. "We will never back down," she often reminded her crew. "We are not the underdogs anymore. The giants are afraid, and we will make them tremble." And tremble they did. The Titans were not accustomed to fear. Their empire had stood unchallenged for centuries, and the notion that a smaller species could threaten their dominance unsettled them deeply. The Titan High Command was in disarray, struggling to recalibrate their strategies. They had ruled by sheer force for so long that they were ill-prepared for the guerrilla tactics and unconventional warfare humanity brought to the table. But it wasn't just about the physical war. The Federation had cracked the code of Titan psychology. The giants valued honor above all else, and their pride was their greatest vulnerability. By undermining their cultural values, the Federation created rifts in the Titan ranks, turning former allies against them. Humans used their intellect to expose the cracks in the once impenetrable empire. Meanwhile, humanity's technological advancements were nothing short of revolutionary. They had adapted Titan technology, reverse engineering it and enhancing it with their own innovations. The Federation's new fleet was a terrifying sight to behold, smaller, sleeker, and more powerful than anything the Titans had ever faced. And the humans knew how to use it in ways the Titans could never anticipate. For every Titan dreadnought that roared through the stars, there were a dozen human ships waiting in the shadows, outsmarting them at every turn. The Titans' greatest strength, raw power, was now their greatest weakness. Humanity had turned the tables, using strategy and intelligence to overcome what brute force could not. As the first major victories began to pile up, the galaxy began to see the truth. Humanity was not just rising, they were on the verge of toppling the Titans from their throne. And for the first time in millennia, the once invincible empire began to doubt its own supremacy. Captain Hart stood on the command deck of the Vanguard, watching as another Titan fleet retreated into the blackness of space. A smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. She knew they were far from done, but with each victory, they were proving something far more important, that the giants, with all their power and arrogance, were not as invincible as they thought. And this was just the beginning. The unstoppable rise of humanity had only begun, and the Titans would soon learn that the humans had no intention of stopping until their entire empire had been dismantled. The tide of the war was shifting in favor of humanity. What had once been a desperate struggle for survival was now a concerted effort to reclaim the galaxy from the Titans. Their military might, once considered invincible, was crumbling under the weight of humanity's relentless strategy and innovation. But the Federation's victories, though monumental, were only the beginning of a long and arduous campaign. It wasn't enough to simply win battles, they needed to strike at the very heart of the Titan Empire to end the war once and for all. The Titan Empire was vast, stretching across countless systems, each governed by powerful lords loyal to the Empire's ruling class. At the core of this empire was the Citadel of the Giants, a colossal space station that served as the seat of their power. It was here, on the Citadel, that the ruling Titan Council resided, the leaders who had long looked down upon humanity as little more than pests. If the Federation was to truly defeat the Titans, they would have to take the Citadel. The task seemed impossible. The Citadel was well protected by the full might of the Titan fleet, and no one had ever dared attack it directly. But Captain Amelia Hart was not one to shy away from the impossible. She had come to understand something the Titans never could: humanity's strength did not lie in sheer numbers or overwhelming force, but in their ability to adapt, think, and overcome. After months of tactical maneuvering and building alliances with dozens of alien species, Hart had a plan, a bold one that would either end the war or see humanity crushed once and for all. "Everything we've done, every victory we've won, has led to this moment," Hart said, addressing her officers aboard the Vanguard as they prepared to launch the final strike. "We're not just going to take their fleet down. We're going to break their pride. We're going to show them that their strength, their size, means nothing. This isn't about power, it's about unity, about a people who refuse to bow." Her crew, once skeptical, now followed her with unwavering loyalty. They had seen her lead them through impossible odds time and again. The Vanguard had become a symbol of humanity's defiance, small, yet unstoppable. The Federation's war effort had grown immensely over the last few months. What was once a coalition of a few hundred ships was now a vast armada of thousands. Led by humanity's ingenuity and the determination of species long oppressed by the Titans, the Federation fleet was prepared for the most audacious attack ever attempted in the galaxy's history. They would strike at the Citadel and make it their own. The Federation's plan was simple in its execution, but complex in its design. They would not face the Titans head-on. Instead, they would use their superior maneuverability in smaller, faster ships to outflank the Titans, creating a diversion large enough to infiltrate the Citadel itself. Meanwhile, the Federation's most elite soldiers, led by Captain Hart, would land on the station and take control of the Titan Council. As the fleet set its course for the Citadel, humanity's forces grew tense with anticipation. The journey was fraught with danger, and any misstep could lead to catastrophic failure. Every soldier and officer knew that this would be a battle for the future of the galaxy. The journey through Titan-controlled space was treacherous, but humanity's ships proved their worth, slipping past Titan patrols with surgical precision. The Titan fleet had grown complacent, thinking their size and strength alone would deter any attackers. The Federation, however, was small, quick, and clever. By the time the Titans realized they had been outmaneuvered, the Federation had already reached the Citadel's outer defenses. The Titans rushed to respond, but it was too late. The Federation fleet, with its vast numbers and unparalleled agility, had already breached the outer hull of the Citadel and fought their way inside. Captain Hart's team was among the first to board, infiltrating the massive station. The corridors were dimly lit, lined with the remnants of a once proud empire. They fought their way through Titan soldiers, using their superior tactics and knowledge of the station's architecture to quickly take control of key areas. As they reached the central chamber where the Titan Council convened, Hart's pulse quickened. This was the moment that would change the galaxy forever. "Let's finish this," she said, her voice steady and determined. The doors to the council chamber opened, revealing the imposing figures of the Titan leaders. The room was silent for a long moment, the tension palpable. The Titans, towering over their human invaders, looked down at them with disdain. You think you can defeat us? One of the Titan lords sneered. You, mere ants, challenging the might of the Empire? But Hart wasn't intimidated. We're not ants, she said, her voice cutting through the silence. We're the ones who refuse to give up. We're the ones who will never bow. The battle for the Citadel had begun in earnest, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Humanity's unrelenting rise had reached its most critical juncture. They had come to destroy the heart of the Titan Empire, and they were prepared to succeed, no matter the cost. The Titan Council's chamber was an immense room, built to reflect the grandeur and unshakable pride of the Empire. The walls were adorned with holograms depicting the history of their species, battles won, worlds conquered, and civilizations brought to their knees. It was the heart of their power, where decisions that shaped the galaxy were made. And now, it was being overrun by a force they had never fully understood, a small but unstoppable force of humanity. Captain Amelia Hart and her team moved with precision, taking down Titan guards in a series of well-orchestrated strikes. Despite their massive size and strength, the Titans were not prepared for the human speed, ingenuity, and brutal efficiency. For all their might, they lacked the adaptability that had become humanity's greatest weapon. Hart's breath was steady, but her heart pounded in her chest. She had always known this moment would come, but standing in the heart of the Titan Empire, facing the very beings who had long treated humanity as insignificant, was surreal. Every step she took brought her closer to the Titan leaders, the same ones who had underestimated humanity for so long. As they stormed the central chamber, the Titan lords stood at the far end, towering over their throne-like seats. Their expressions were a mixture of anger and disbelief. How could such a small race, a species that had barely left their homeworld a century ago, be standing in their sacred citadel? Enough, shouted Titan Lord Volther, the largest and most ruthless of the council. His voice rumbled through the chamber like thunder. You dare challenge us? You think you can end the empire of the giants with your pathetic tricks and cheap technology? Captain Hart stood tall, her expression resolute. I think we've already proven we can. Your empire is built on fear, on the oppression of those weaker than you. But now, the tables have turned. You may be giants in size, but you're small in every way that matters. And today, we're going to make sure the galaxy knows it. Volther's eyes narrowed as he drew his weapon, a massive energy blade that crackled with the raw power of the Titan Empire. He was a force to be reckoned with, a warrior who had fought in the bloodiest battles the galaxy had ever seen. He was used to crushing his enemies with sheer force and power. But against the Federation, he was facing something entirely different, a species that could think, adapt, and outmaneuver him at every turn. The battle erupted with explosive intensity. The Federation soldiers, armed with their advanced weaponry in relentless determination, clashed with the Titan guards in a fury of motion and sound. Hart led the charge, her eyes locked on Volther as he advanced toward her. Volther swung his energy blade with terrifying force, but Hart was quicker. She ducked beneath the swing and, with a swift motion, disabled one of his guards. The battle was chaotic, but Hart's mind remained calm and focused. This was it, the moment that would determine the fate of the galaxy. She had no room for doubt, no room for fear. Only victory. Meanwhile, the rest of the Federation soldiers were making their way to the Council's control center, hacking into the station's systems and disabling key defenses. The Citadel, once a symbol of Titan invincibility, was now a fortress under siege by the very species they had dismissed as weak. The battle raged on for what felt like an eternity. Captain Hart and Volther clashed in a furious duel, their weapons locking in a flurry of sparks and energy. But Hart, with her cunning and quick thinking, found the opening she needed. She used a Titan-made energy pulse to destabilize Volther's blade, leaving him vulnerable. With one swift strike, Hart knocked Volther to the ground, her weapon pressed to his throat. The chamber fell silent. The other Titan leaders, once so confident in their superiority, looked on in shock and fear. Their greatest warrior had been defeated by a human, one of the very species they had believed beneath them. You think this is over? Volther growled, his pride shattered. You can't defeat an empire. We will rise again. Hart's gaze was unwavering. "No, Volther. Your empire is done. It's time for the galaxy to be free." She signaled to her team, and the final blow was struck. The Titan Council was captured, their leadership dismantled. The once mighty empire of the Titans had crumbled in the face of humanity's determination and ingenuity. The Federation soldiers secured the Citadel, and the vast Titan fleet was disabled, its commanders either captured or defeated. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity, the smallest and most underestimated species, had brought down the most powerful empire the universe had ever known. Captain Hart stood in the center of the Titan Council chamber, her heart swelling with pride and relief. The Federation had won. The Titans were no longer the masters of the galaxy. Humanity, once a fledgling species on the edge of the universe, had become its new rulers. But Hart knew this victory was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were many more battles to fight. But humanity had proven one thing without a doubt: in a universe of giants, it was the smallest species who would rise to the top. And nothing could stop them now. The fall of the Titan Empire sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. News of their defeat spread quickly, and for the first time in millennia, the galaxy's oppressed species dared to dream of freedom. The once mighty empire, whose arrogance had shaped the lives of countless civilizations, was no more. Humanity had not just defeated them, they had shattered their foundation, exposing their fragility to the universe. However, victory came at a steep cost. The battle for the Citadel had been brutal, and while the Federation had secured the heart of the Titan Empire, it had not been without heavy casualties. Dozens of Federation ships had been lost in the final push, and many soldiers had given their lives to see this day come. But as the last remnants of the Titan fleet limped away into deep space, it was clear that humanity had achieved the impossible. Captain Amelia Hart stood aboard the Vanguard, staring out at the debris of the Citadel. The space station, once the symbol of Titan might, now floated as a cold, desolate hulk, its darkened hull reflecting the stars. The victory was theirs, but the weight of the responsibility was only just beginning to sink in. "I never imagined it would be like this," she said, her voice distant as she gazed out at the wreckage. Commander Jorik, her trusted second-in-command, placed a hand on her shoulder. He had fought alongside her through countless battles, and he knew the toll that such a victory took on a leader. "You did what no one thought was possible. Humanity proved itself, Captain. The galaxy will never be the same." Hart nodded slowly, still lost in thought. While the Titans had been defeated, their empire had spanned the galaxy. There was still much work to do. The Federation had to consolidate power, rebuild war-torn planets, and unite the galaxy's countless species under a new banner, one of equality, justice, and freedom. The transition would not be easy. The Titan Empire had built its power on fear and oppression, and many of their former vassal states were reluctant to accept a new order. Despite the destruction of their overlords, old alliances ran deep, and many former Titan allies still held significant power. To secure lasting peace, humanity and their new allies would have to navigate a delicate political landscape. "There's still much to be done," Hart continued, turning away from the view. "We may have won the war, but now we have to win the peace. And that might be the hardest part." In the weeks that followed, the Federation quickly began to establish its authority across the galaxy. The former Titan worlds, many of which had been left in ruin after the final battle, were among the first to be liberated. The Federation worked alongside their new allies to provide aid, rebuild infrastructure, and begin the difficult process of healing the wounds left by centuries of Titan rule. Humanity's role in the new galaxy was clear. They were the beacon of hope, the symbol of what could be achieved when the oppressed fought back. They would lead, not through fear, but through unity and strength in purpose. The Federation wasn't just a military alliance, it was a new political and social order, one founded on the ideals of freedom and self-determination. But the Titans were not the only threat humanity would face. While the Titan Empire had been the dominant force in the galaxy, there were still many dangers lurking in the shadows. Rogue factions, mercenary groups, and other warlords took advantage of the power vacuum left by the Empire's collapse. These new enemies were formidable, but they were not the well-coordinated, oppressive force that the Titans had been. In the days following the Titan Empire's collapse, a new threat emerged, one that humanity had not anticipated. The remnants of the Titan fleet, though broken and scattered, had not been completely destroyed. A faction of Titans, led by a rogue general named Zaltor, had fled deep into uncharted space, gathering a small but deadly force to continue their fight. Zaltor was unlike any Titan Hart had faced before. He was a survivor, a strategist who had managed to escape the fall of the Empire and was now plotting to regain his people's lost glory. He understood the Titan's pride, and he knew how to manipulate it to his advantage. This new faction would not simply be defeated with brute force, they would require cunning and adaptability, just as humanity had demonstrated time and again. Hart's thoughts were interrupted and a message came through from the Federation High Command. The situation was dire. Zaltor had already begun rallying other Titan loyalists, and his forces were growing. The remnants of the Empire would not let go of their power so easily. "It's not over yet," Hart said, as she read the briefing. Her face was grim, but determined. "The Titans may have fallen, but their legacy lives on. We need to be ready." As the Federation regrouped and prepared for the next phase of the war, humanity's leaders knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never be the same. They had risen from the ashes of oppression, defeated an empire that had ruled for eons, and proven that even the smallest species could become the greatest force in the universe. But the war was not over. And the greatest challenge humanity faced was yet to come. The galaxy had witnessed a great victory. The Titans, once an unstoppable force, had been brought to their knees by the determined rise of humanity. But as Captain Amelia Hart and the Federation began to rebuild and solidify their newfound power, a new shadow emerged, one that threatened to undo everything humanity had worked for. Zaltor, the rogue Titan general, was a name that would soon be known throughout the galaxy. His small, scattered faction had been building strength in secret, gathering resources from the farthest reaches of uncharted space. He was no mere warrior, he was a tactician, a strategist, and a survivor. His escape from the Citadel had been a calculated move, and now, he was planning humanity's downfall. Reports filtered in from Federation scouts about the growing Titan faction, rumors of an unstoppable new fleet, one that was far more advanced than the remnants of the old Titan Empire. Zaltor had rebuilt his forces using alien technology scavenged from ancient ruins, and he had forged new alliances with some of the galaxy's most dangerous mercenaries. His forces were now preparing to strike, and the Federation's victory over the Titan seemed, for the first time, uncertain. "We cannot underestimate him," Hart said, as she stood in the Federation's war room, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. "Zaltor is no fool. He's been studying us. And he knows what makes us tick. He'll exploit our weaknesses." Commander Jorik stood beside her, his expression grim. "The Federation has been stretched thin since the Titan defeat. We've barely had time to rebuild our fleets and solidify our alliances. Now we're facing a force that knows how to exploit our vulnerabilities. We need to act fast." Hart nodded. She had no illusions about the challenge ahead. Zaltor's forces were small but cunning. They operated in the shadows, moving quickly and striking decisively. The Federation's fleet, though vastly superior in numbers, was still recovering from the war with the Titans. They had no choice but to move quickly, before Zaltor could fully execute his plan. "We'll need to go on the offensive," Hart said, turning to the holographic map. "We don't have the luxury of waiting for him to make the first move. We'll strike at his fleet, destabilize his command, and dismantle his forces before he can become a serious threat." The Federation's War Council gathered around the table, a mix of military strategists, diplomats, and scientists. The plan Hart proposed was bold, but it was their best chance of ending this before it escalated into another galactic war. The Federation would launch a surprise strike against one of Zaltor's supply depots, cutting off his fleet's access to critical resources and crippling their ability to wage war. Meanwhile, Hart and her elite team would infiltrate his flagship and eliminate Zaltor himself. "We take the fight to him," Hart said. "We show him that humanity's rise is unstoppable. We'll put an end to this before it starts. The Federation fleet, bolstered by their newly rebuilt forces, prepared for the assault. The stakes were higher than ever. If they failed, Zaltor's faction would be in position to wage a long, devastating war. But if they succeeded, the Rogue General's forces would be shattered, and humanity's grip on the galaxy would remain unchallenged. The attack began with precision. Federation ships, faster and more agile than anything the Titans had ever fielded, slipped past the Titan fleet's defenses and struck at their supply base. The battle was intense, but the Federation's surprise attack left Zaltor's forces scrambling. His fleet, though advanced, was not prepared for the swiftness and coordination of the Federation's assault. While the battle raged in space, Captain Hart's team embarked on a dangerous mission, boarding Zaltor's flagship, the Unyielding. The ship was massive, built for speed and firepower, its hull lined with advanced weaponry scavenged from the darkest corners of the galaxy. It was a fortress, a symbol of Zaltor's unyielding ambition. And it would be the site of humanity's most critical fight yet. Inside the Unyielding, Hart and her team fought through the ship's corridors, engaging Titan soldiers and mercenaries who had pledged loyalty to Zaltor. The ship's defenses were fierce, but the Federation soldiers were relentless. They moved with purpose, their determination fueled by the knowledge that this battle would determine the future of the galaxy. Finally, they reached the heart of the ship, the command center. There, standing before them, was General Zaltor. The Rogue General was tall, his Titan frame exuding power and authority. His eyes gleamed with the cold confidence of a predator, but there was something different about him. He was not the mindless brute that the Titans were known for. Zaltor was a strategist, a leader who had learned from his failures and was now prepared to take the galaxy by force. "I knew you would come, human," Zaltor said, his voice low and rumbling. "You are a worthy adversary. But this galaxy belongs to the Titans. You will never truly rule it." Hart stepped forward, her weapon raised. "You're wrong, Zaltor. The Titans may have ruled this galaxy for centuries, but their time is over. Humanity has risen, and we will never kneel again." With a single command, the final battle for the Unyielding began. The two leaders clashed in a brutal fight, their skills honed through countless battles. Zaltor's strength was unmatched, but Hart's speed and ingenuity gave her the edge. The battle was a dance of death, each move calculated and decisive. In the end, it was Hart who emerged victorious. With a final, well-placed strike, she brought down the Rogue General, ending his threat to the galaxy once and for all. The Unyielding was disabled, and Zaltor's faction was no more. As the Federation fleet withdrew, Captain Hart stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, looking out at the stars. The war was over. The Titans were gone, and Zaltor's rebellion had been crushed. Humanity's place in the galaxy was secure. But Hart knew that the true test was yet to come. The galaxy was not a peaceful place, and humanity's rise had made them many enemies. There would always be those who sought to challenge their newfound power. But for now, humanity had proven that in a universe of giants, it was they who would remain unstoppable. The galaxy was silent in the wake of Zaltor's defeat. The Federation fleet moved away from the shattered Unyielding, their mission complete. Captain Amelia Hart stood at the helm of the Vanguard, gazing out at the stars, contemplating the enormity of what humanity had just achieved. The Titans were gone. The Rogue General had been defeated. The galaxy, once dominated by oppressive empires and alien overlords, now stood at the cusp of a new era. But for Hart, the battle was only the beginning of something far greater. The galaxy was vast, and its challenges were endless. Humanity had risen, but now they had to prove they could lead, govern, and unite the countless species who had once been subjugated. As the Federation began to rebuild its infrastructure and strengthen its alliances, a new era of exploration dawned. Humanity's reach had expanded beyond what any of their ancestors had ever imagined. No longer a species confined to the small confines of Earth, they now commanded fleets that could traverse entire star systems. They were leaders, not just warriors, diplomats, not just conquerors. And their mission was clear: to create a galaxy where peace, freedom, and justice reigned. But even as humanity looked to the future, there were those who resented their rise. Fragments of the old Titan Empire remained, warlords, mercenaries, and factions that had once thrived on fear and oppression. They would not give up their power without a fight. Yet, for the first time in galactic history, humanity had something no one else possessed: unity, strength, and an unyielding will to survive. Hart and her team traveled to the newly formed Council of the Federation, where representatives from dozens of liberated species had gathered. Their once divided voices now echoed together, a powerful chorus of diverse civilizations united under the banner of humanity. Hart stood at the front of the chamber, surrounded by the leaders of the galaxy's liberated species. "We've fought for this moment," Hart said, her voice ringing through the grand hall. "We've fought for the right to govern ourselves, to protect our homes, and to ensure that no one else will suffer under the tyranny of those who would seek to control us. Humanity's rise isn't just about us, it's about all of us. Together, we can create a future where all species have the freedom to choose their own destiny." The room erupted in applause. For the first time in history, the galaxy's civilizations were coming together not in fear, but in hope. The Federation was not just a military alliance, it was a symbol of the power of unity and cooperation. However, Hart knew that their greatest challenge was yet to come. The galaxy was still rife with unrest. The Titans may have been defeated, but new power struggles were beginning to form. Those who had once lived under their heel were now free, but the price of freedom was vigilance. As the galaxy adjusted to the new order, factions would rise, old alliances would fracture, and new threats would emerge. "Humanity's strength lies not in our military might, but in our resolve to never give up," Hart said, addressing the council once more. "We have shown the galaxy that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we will rise. But our true test will be in the years ahead. Can we maintain the peace we fought so hard for? Can we build a future where the darkness of oppression is banished once and for all?" The answer would not come easily. But as Hart looked around the room at the faces of the galaxy's leaders, representatives of once oppressed species and now standing side by side with humanity, she knew one thing for certain: this was not the end of humanity's rise. It was only the beginning. The Federation was growing stronger by the day. New alliances were forged, old wounds were healed, and humanity's influence stretched across the galaxy like an unbreakable thread. They had defeated the Titans. They had proven their worth. But their legacy was more than just a victory over one empire. It was a promise to all the people of the galaxy that they would never again have to live in fear. As the vanguard left the council chamber, Hart stood at the window, watching as the stars stretched out before her. There was still much to be done. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead were countless. But humanity had proven one undeniable truth: they were unstoppable. And as long as they stood together, nothing would ever stand in their way.